Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of AngularAir. I'm your host, Justin Schwarzenberger, and today we are going to be discussing StackBlitz. I know y'all have heard about StackBlitz out there, but if you haven't, you should check it out. Pretty awesome tool, and we're going to get into it and discuss with the creators of it. Should be pretty awesome. So let's get at it. Our panelists today, we've got Alyssa with us. Alyssa, what is going on?
Hey guys, glad to be here.
Hey, we got Austin with us. Austin.
How's it going, everyone? Yesterday, it snowed in Texas.
That was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Like not just in Texas, though, right? In South Texas, right?
Exactly, yes.
Is it still there or did it all melt?
It melted.
It melted.
Nice. We got Bonnie. Bonnie, what's going on?
Yeehaw. Yeah, everybody has hats, and so I felt like I needed a hat because I didn't want to be left out, but this is like my only, but it's not actually a joke hat. It's a real hat. But yeah, so I'm Bonnie. You guys know me. NG Houston, of NG Houston fame. I feel like it's about time to I feel like I could say of NG Houston fame, at least within the Angular community. It's like a thing. I meet people like on other continents now that know who I am. Or no, they don't know who I am, but they know NG Houston, so it's pretty exciting.
Heck yeah, NG Houston's a big famous show with giant guests.
I don't know about that. Let's not go that far. But I'm super excited about the StackBlitz thing, so I'm glad to be here today.
Awesome. We got Mike with us as well. Mike, what's going on?
Not too much. Sad that I had to wait till Friday for a show, but happy to be doing the show this week.
Yeah, we got the Friday show adjusted because I was out of town earlier this week. So we really appreciate our guests being able to come here on a Friday. Normally we're on a Tuesday. Speaking of our guest, we have Eric and Albert with us. How's it going?
Hey. It's going well. We're the creators of StackBlitz, and for our day job, we're the co-founders of Thinkster.io, which is a site where you can go and learn about full stack development. We primarily focus on Angular with a whole bunch of different backends like Node and Django and Rails and whatnot. We're excited to be on here.
Awesome. Well, we're stoked you came on, and we're super stoked about this tool. And man, it's blowing up on the scene. Why don't you tell everybody first about what StackBlitz is and what's trying to solve and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So we originally started working on StackBlitz almost like exactly a year ago, right? And it really came from two pain points that we saw from the folks that we teach on Thinkster and our own, which is that local dev environments are a huge pain to set up. That was really the first and foremost. And for us, when we want to go and prototype a new app, we have a great idea. We just want to bang out some code real quick. Setting up a local environment is often just it takes a lot of time, and
sometimes longer than building the actual prototype.
Yeah, so it's like it just gets in the way. Just huge buzzkill, right? The second problem is that it's just riddled with traps. You run into all these different bugs that happen in the local environment. And so, for developers that have a decent amount of experience, this is just more of a nuisance. But for junior developers or folks who are just starting to learn a new framework, for example, this is a huge problem. It's super frustrating because they often can't discern am I doing something wrong with Angular, or is this like something under the hood with Webpack or whatever have you. So it really impedes the learning process of learners. And so we ended up thinking, this code that we run locally for these dev tools is written in JavaScript, right? Like, can't we just copy pasta that into the browser and it should work, right? And so after a good amount of some R&D we did, we ended up figuring out like it was possible. It's just going to be ludicrously difficult to do. And so Albert and I, a little backstory, we grew up down the street from each other in Chicago. He and I have been building software together since we were like 13 or something. And we're a sucker for a good challenge. So we spent 6 months of our lives going and digging in and seeing if we could create an online environment that used a lot of the pieces of the stuff that runs locally. And so anyway, so long story short, StackBlitz, you can come here and in one click, you can create an environment for Angular, React, Ionic, more coming soon. And within 2 seconds, 3 seconds maybe, your project's up and running. You can type, you can change the code, hot reloads automatically. So it's like a fully fledged environment in your browser.
So there's a lot of other tools out there that kind of solve this similar problem. What drove you guys to kind of make your own?
I think there's probably best described as like two classes of categories that solve this problem. One is sites like CodePen or JS Fiddle, like very focused, kind of single file sort of environments where you can hammer on code. They might have transforms for Babel or TypeScript or whatever have you. The problem with those is that they to my knowledge, none of them ship with native NPM support. You have to like go and find the UMD file on package or whatever and like slap it in there and then get it from the global, like that whole ordeal. But it doesn't have multi-file support, right? It's not an actual dev environment. It's a fiddle, it's a pen, right? So that didn't really solve the use case we were looking for too well. The other side of it is that there's a handful of services out there that do everything server side. They basically run a VM out in the cloud. And to date, that's been where a lot of the momentum has been for being able to run this stuff like quote unquote directly in a browser, but it's not actually running in the browser. And it sounds like a great idea, but the problem is that the latency is just brutal to these VMs. So it's just as slow as your dev environment locally, but also oftentimes even slower because you're dealing with the latency. So it ends up being just as bad of a solution most of the time. And so that's how we ended up, that was the primary reason we started going down this path, is that there really didn't seem to be anything that addressed the concerns around speed and around the robust actual local dev environment experience. And so that's kind of the gap that we're trying to fill with StackBlitz.
So you said something interesting there. I actually thought you guys were doing a VM in the background. So everything is in the browser. Like you're running an NPM in your browser?
Yeah. Pretty much all of the computationally heavy stuff happens directly like in your web browser, right? So like if you kick off the network tab, or sorry, if you kick off network, like, you kill your Wi-Fi or whatever, right? StackBlitz will still work. You can still refresh your preview frame and it'll rebundle, and you can still do hot reloading. All that stuff still works if you're offline because it's all being done in the browser, like the serving, the bundling, hot reloading, all of that stuff. And one of the things that in the terms of NPM, one of the things that we just announced this past week was this NPM client called Turbo. And this is, we originally rolled out StackBlitz 4 months ago with a version of Turbo that was maybe 1.5x faster than what NPM and Yarn could do locally. But over the past couple of months, we've just learned like a ton about how to do all this sort of stuff efficiently in a browser. And we were able to get the speed of installs to be 5 times faster than your local environment normally can do package installations. So it's kind of mind-blowing that a browser is actually better suited for installing packages than your local environment, right? But
how does that work? Tell us how that works. Like I just want to know it all.
Okay. Wait. Maybe before you talk about that, can you explain this whole NPM thing? And like, if we think about Plunker per se, right? And we say we want to have these dependencies in our little Plunker setup, we've got to kind of do that from a list. And that's different in StackBlitz, right? Of how you bring those in. So can you talk about that a little bit? And then we can talk about the power of that. Yeah.
I'm not entirely familiar with exactly how Jeff did the dependency stuff on Plunker. I think just about everyone to date points at UMD distribution files that all of these libraries and frameworks put out there. A good number of them, at least. There's some that don't. The problem is that you have to go and hunt that stuff down yourself, and you have to bring that, and you can't just say, okay, import Angular from @angular/core or whatever, right? Or I guess it would be import Angular, but you get what I'm saying. And the reason being is that you're not actually using like an NPM client. You're not actually importing dependencies. And so the problem we had to solve is how do we take the core NPM's core functionality, or like the core use case it provides locally, and make that work natively in a browser and 5 times faster than local. Like that's our bar across the board for StackBlitz has always been, we want to be, this has to be great for prototyping, right? Which means that it's got to be faster than your local environment. And so we don't want it to be just a little bit faster. It's got to be like 5 times faster. It's a pretty tall order to be able to do that, because that would be hard to even do just in a local environment. But we've figured out on a lot of the key things that usually take up a lot of time, like installing packages, where normally you get up and get a cup of coffee after running npm install. Being able to cut that time down where it's ludicrously fast.
So are all packages supported, or just some packages?
Yeah, most packages are supported. The ones that are tough to support are ones that are pretty much impossible to support, are ones that rely on node specific APIs, like very, very like things that are unfathomable to do inside of a web browser because they don't have actual local access. That said, most of the stuff we use in front end never touches those sorts of dependencies anyways.
And so from a user perspective, like if I'm going there, one of the things that's really cool with StackBlitz is that I can go in there and I can add packages by just typing in the package name the same way I would do in my package JSON file. So it's really familiar to me, and it's really quick for me as a user to add these dependencies to my StackBlitz project that I'm going on. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. This thing's a fully blown npm client. Like this isn't just a something that just kind of works in the browser. Like this is kind of like the first take on what package managers might look like with, modules are starting to come back to the browser. Back in the old day, we used to slap a script tag on the page for AngularJS, slap that on the page. That was how you installed dependencies, and with script type modules, there's been a lot of question, can we return to the simpler roots of web development? So actually, after we announced Turbo, one of the core folks on npm they reached out to us, and apparently they've been looking into doing something similar to this because they see the direction that this stuff is moving. At some point, it would be pretty awesome to see the methodology we've used for Turbo to actually end up getting used on local, and kind of to bring us back to the old days, to be able to just put a script tag on the page to get your dependencies. So,
did you, when you set out to build this tool, did you imagine that, or was this on the roadmap that you'd be creating these other type of solutions and this other things like Turbo and stuff, or did this just kind of come naturally out of the things that you discovered as you started building this editor that you set out to build?
Yeah, I think, I mean, ideally we wouldn't have had to build all this stuff, because we just want to deliver the best development experience to the end user. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of work that's been done in making all this sort of stuff work in a browser. And I don't know about you, but I've learned like way more about how these dev tools work under the hood than I ever wanted to know.
That's kind of always a story, right? But what's really cool is like to see these things that come out. I mean, and it happens so often in our industry that teams set out to build something, build A, right? And there's these tools that they need, or these solutions they need to implement A, and all of a sudden those become their own awesome standalone things that solve these problems that they can share with, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun. I mean, I never would have been interested in this stuff before, but a lot of the stuff we're working on is pretty cool, and we're excited to open source all of it and get it out there, because I think it can definitely be used in a lot of other places, not just on the web. I think that a lot of this stuff would be very prudent to bring to local, because I mean, everyone always complains about how gigantic node modules is, and for in the instance of Turbo, we see reductions in the size of node modules up to 2 orders of magnitude, which is just like almost unbelievable. So if we could bring that to local, that'd be really sweet, So,
is there a Electron app in the future where I can just download StackBlitz Electron app and that's my dev environment?
I don't know. What do you think?
That sounds like ideal, right? Like I wouldn't have to do anything then. I could just download the StackBlitz app. And
That's when you say, so Austin, are you gonna build that? Like,
we're looking for help. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I can't. You're not the first person to ask us about it, which was I personally I've been kind of surprised by it because we were just thinking, this is something that people like their local environment, but a lot of people are going, I compared to my local environment, I like this thing a lot more. So can you just bring this thing down and just blow out all the other stuff I currently use? Yeah, we'd love to. We need to make it a little more robust, but yeah, I mean, there's nothing technically preventing us from doing that. So.
Oh, come on now. We're already battling over WebStorm and VS Code. We're going to throw another editor.
Well, technically, this is VS Code because it uses the code editor.
Very similar.
So, I want to talk about that too. But maybe before we do all of that, let's first mention where they can go to get this thing, right? StackBlitz.com, right? And then maybe talk about a little bit about the features of what you can do as a user coming in here, like things like versioning the code and sharing the code and stuff like that. Can we kind of go over that really quick?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so it's at StackBlitz.com. You can go there. You don't even have to sign up. One click on the homepage. There's Angular, React, and Ionic. You click it. Within a couple seconds, you're going to be in a running environment. Actually, a couple seconds, not just the page loaded. We have to wait for this thing to finish doing its thing. It's like actually fully done. So what you can do, it's really, it feels and functions exactly like your local development environment. It's got VS Code's state-of-the-art editing engine in it for type auto completions, and it automatically pulls the types from your node module, so you don't have to do any crazy stuff to make that work. It's just when you install a new package, it just works. Like those types are available in your project now. You have go to file with Command P or Control P. And format document, all the stuff that you use in VS Code most of it's in StackBlitz. And once you're in StackBlitz, you can just start prototyping your application. It's got hot reloading, and every project has its own unique URL. So you can send that to your friends, to your mom, whoever, and it's always online. It's not throttled, it doesn't go to sleep. It's always there for people to access. And just like a normal local dev environment, you can export your projects, you can import other projects into it. So for exporting, there's just a button at the top that says export. You click it, it downloads your current project to the Angular CLI format, so you can just start running it locally. And then if you want to take code you've written locally, let's say you have a couple of files that have helper functions in them or something, and you want to bring them into your project, all you have to do is just drag and drop them onto StackBlitz. It's that easy. It just, boom, in the blink of an eye, it imports those and it's available, and you can start importing from those files and use them in your project.
And it'll make your toast for you too.
That's an upcoming release, right? So if I was in the scenario where I wanted to bring this project down and work on it locally and then sync it back up and kind of have that, is there kind of a story for that? I mean, you mentioned then dragging it back up there, but is there any potential to be able to say kind of sometimes I want to be working on it locally and just have it keep syncing up there sort of thing?
Totally. Yeah, we're getting into our 2018 roadmap. So two things I think that solve that are, first of all, is complete integration with GitHub. So you just go in StackBlitz, it's tied to the same Git repo. If you make changes locally and commit them to GitHub, automatically get synced into StackBlitz. You'll be able to resolve conflicts and the whole gambit, right? Open PRs, all of that directly within StackBlitz. Super, super cool. The other thing, which is slightly related to what you're saying, but probably worth mentioning here, is real-time collaborative editing. So if you have, a lot of times when you have this scenario where you want to have changes, coming in, is when you're working with other people. And in StackBlitz, you'll be able to actually be in the same environment, and as the other person's typing, you're seeing their changes get hot reloaded and vice versa. And it basically like Google Docs, but for writing web applications, which will be pretty cool.
Have you talked to the VS Code team? Because I know recently, in the last month or so, they announced the VS Code Live Share to see if that would be an API that you'd be able to tap into, or?
Yeah, we haven't talked to them yet. We're not quite sure exactly. We need, I think, if it makes sense for us to do it in the same way that they're doing it, we definitely love to do it that way. We're gonna spend some time, and actually, if anyone watching this has feedback on it, if they prefer to, see it done in the same standard as the VS Code with the same API. We'd love to hear about that, because it's something that we've actually been trying to figure out. Like, are we actually going to create a StackBlitz specific one, or is this going to be something that is backwards compatible with VS Code, or maybe both? So yeah.
Have you checked out Atom's editor? They're using WebRTC for their co-editing.
Yeah. We like the idea of that. We like the idea of having a more peer-to-peer solution. But we haven't come to any conclusions yet. Just because we typically, before we start writing even one line of code in StackBlitz itself, we go and do some pretty rigorous research and prototyping and testing to make sure that whatever we're about to go throw our weight into, because those are pretty big features to do. They're not trivial to do well, at least. So we're going to be spending a ton of time making sure that it's the right path to go down.
So right now, if a user logs in with GitHub, what is that providing them right now today with their GitHub login on StackBlitz?
Right now, I think it's just mostly convenience. And in the future, it allows us to create repos and sync them and that sort of stuff. But I mean, today it's strictly just like one-click login, and all of your projects are available. It's synced to your account, or not to your GitHub account, excuse me, but it's like, tied to your account specifically. But we chose GitHub because we have intended on doing some deep integrations there.
Yeah, I love that concept of potentially being able to link that to a repo and have the repo load up into here. That's killer. What about like gist and stuff, and the ability to take snippets of code and just save that to a gist? Is that on the roadmap?
We've heard some stuff kind of in that vein. Yeah, I think we might have something. I'm not entirely sure what exactly it would look like, but I think there's definitely a possibility of a gist sort of system on StackBlitz, kind of, but more tuned to like what StackBlitz typically provides, with access to NPM and stuff like that. Then be able to take your code and then put it in a gist. I think that would be super cool. So yeah, definitely something that we're looking into.
So if people want to support you guys, whether it's financially or reporting bugs or even hacking away at it, do you have a place for them to go and do those kind of supports?
Yeah, so if you have any feedback for us, or like any bugs or issues that you run it on the site, we have a GitHub repo. I think it's github.com/stackblitz/core. And you can follow any issues there. And if you want to support us, right now, the best way to do that is through our Thinkster Pro subscription.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's our day. Yeah, our day job again is we teach people the codes for a living. So we're considering doing a Patreon for StackBlitz, but we figured that we're actually going to do a course on how we built StackBlitz, or how we're building it. And we'd love to, because we want to give something back to, besides just StackBlitz, giving some folks something that would be interesting or educational. If you go to thinkster.io and then click on Pro, if you jump on one of the subscriptions, that goes directly to me and this guy. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
Very cool. Awesome.
It's really awesome you guys are doing this all for free too, because you're storing all that stuff. So like, that's got to add up after a while.
It doesn't. Honestly, that was one of the key design requirements behind all the architectures we've been building out, is that it needs to be negligible in cost, even scaling to the size of millions of users. Because again, your browser's doing all of the hard stuff here. So our backend is just pretty much just a CRUD API, like just for persisting the end result of what your browser has done. We just save that, and then when you load a project, it just sends that back out, and that's for the most part that's what our backend is doing. Although there's probably other things like.
Basically, the backend is just managing persistence of all the data and getting the data to the client. But yeah, the client is doing everything that's computationally intensive.
Yeah,
I almost
Albert's
want you
Albert's
guys to
the
put like
expert.
a support us, like really tiny, like 11 pixel, like gray, like support us link on StackBlitz, like, because honestly, as a developer, when I see really cool projects like this out there in the community, that's my first thought is how do I keep this going? Because I know that I know how much work goes into it. And I'm just so grateful for cool projects like this. So I don't know. I would love to see that because I feel like you would get more I don't know, just like donations to keep you going or something.
I mean, you know what? You're convincing me. I'm not opposed to asking for money to help us do this. It does take up a lot of time. I mean, we're suckers for a good challenge, so we're more than happy to do it for intrinsic reasons. But we've had a handful of folks ask, which is, I mean, it's been delightful. I mean, it's like, having people be like, hey, can I give you money is it's a really sweet thing for folks to offer. And, we really appreciate it.
It's not sweet though, Eric. We're not doing it to be nice. It's because this thing that you guys built is amazing and it's beautiful and it's fast and it's got this really nice interface and it's helping a lot of people. There's nothing nice about it. It's just, I mean,
selfish.
There's nothing nice about
strictly pragmatic reasons.
You know what I mean?
No, I appreciate it. I mean, it's seriously. I mean, we appreciate the kind words. I mean, we've worked super. This is by far the hardest thing I've ever worked on in my life, from engineering and I mean all aspects. So yeah, I mean, it's a delight to hear that folks like what we've done. It's the dream come true.
And I think it's very
apparent. Go to your head, guys.
I think it's very apparent to everybody out there. Like, this is a massive undertaking for the two of you to build a system like this is really amazing because it's doing so much stuff, right?
Yeah, it's fun too because on a daily basis we're switching between writing the code for just an editor, like a high class editing experience, and then we're switching to bundling, and then we're switching to writing an NPM client. So there's just like so many things that have to go into it that I can't think of another project that would normally give you that sort of just broad exposure to stuff. Definitely not for the faint of heart. But yeah, again, we've learned a lot. We've learned a ton in the past year, especially the past 4 months since this thing's been online, and we've been able to test out all of the new iterations on making it faster and more reliable, whatever have you.
Let's talk about that editor.
I'd like to talk about it, but I think we should see it too. I think that there's probably some people out there who are maybe watching that haven't actually seen it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you could talk about your favorite features.
People haven't seen this?
Here, I'll let's see if I can switch my video to doing some screen share magic here.
I think my first impression, the first time I looked at StackBlitz and I saw it and I started clicking around and actually tried doing something with it, was like, clearly this was a labor of love for somebody, because it's just little details. Like, you can slap it together and be like, okay, it works, good enough. But when you go the extra mile to really make it smooth and nice and clean, like somebody cares about this little program,
It is awesome to hear you say that, because boy, it took a lot of time to get a lot of the details right on the UI, UX, and the tech. So yeah, seriously, it's
Did
awesome.
you guys ever have like 3 a.m. arguments? Like, it's fine. Just like, no, it's not fine. It needs to be better.
Yeah. It's that's how that's the one thing we've learned, I think, working on this, is that creating something that's a really good experience end to end is the result of a lot of discussion, a lot of really blunt.
It requires a lot of perspective from just so many angles.
And it requires working with someone who is willing to check their ego at the table. And this is one of the few people on the planet I've worked with that can, because most people, when you talk with them about, by working on something, you get tied up in it. Your identity gets tied up in it. And I mean, it's, I can't imagine having built this with anyone else I know. Like,
I can imagine you arguing with Albert, and Albert's taking this very seriously, and then you put on the squirrel head, and it's
you build our personality types. I'm happy to show the thing off. Let's see. All right, I'm going to switch over to my screen. Let's see. Do you guys see my browser here?
Yes.
All right. Yep. So because the Google Hangouts is sucking up like 90% of my CPU. I'm just on our base TypeScript starter project, which is a little less intensive. I'll flip over to an Angular one real quick after this. But so this is StackBlitz. I have multiple files here over on the left. Again, I can do that like Command P. I can just start typing and hit enter. Boom. Go back. And so this is, I'll show off the 2 technology upgrades we made with Turbo, and actually we haven't even talked about the other one called Hyperboot. Long story short, it's some huge upgrades to our bundler and dev server that we're running in browser here. So the core experience is that when you install a package, we want that code to be like the package installed to be immediately available inside of your running live preview application over on the right here, right? So let's go ahead and just install like Moment.js, which is a pretty decently sized library. Hit enter, boom. Moment right there, that installed Moment, and it's now available over here, and I'll go ahead and prove that. I'll like this, and I think it's like, oh, actually I need to import Moment first. Okay. Import Moment from Moment. Oop. And then I do
backticks.
Backticks? I think I have backticks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. Moment, and then dot from now. And so you can see that just like that, that package is available there, right? So, and then what's also cool is like if I delete this, it's super smart. It says, hey, wait a second, you don't have that, right? So if you like copy and paste code into this, it'll automatically prompt you for packages that are missing that your code's importing. And I just one click, boom, it's available.
How to do that? How to do that? Did you like parse your file to see like what imports you have, or?
Yeah, this is part of Hyperboot. So it essentially traces everything that your application requires, and if it cannot find a way to resolve something, we keep track of that, and then we prompt you. So what's super cool, right, is I can why don't we do this with a couple of packages? So I'll import like jQuery, let's import like Bootstrap. I don't know, give me another package.
How about Lodash?
Or Lodash. Right. So let's go ahead and get those guys installed.
All right, I hope this is sinking in for everybody watching, because this is like insane, right?
jQuery is not defined. That's yeah, because Bootstrap needs it as a global, I think. But so yeah, so this everything is installed. You can see it's actually executing the Bootstrap code, because we're saying just import Bootstrap, which requires jQuery to be a global dependency. So you know what? If I say import jQuery, actually I'm not. We'll do another demo, but anyways, so I go ahead and refresh the preview here. We're back to normal, and I can go ahead and just wipe out all these dependencies we installed. So pretty cool. So yeah, this is just.
And that's Hyperboot that's doing that parsing and showing you the dependencies, and that's an open source project you guys did?
Yeah, so it's we haven't open sourced yet. We have the big problem that we have is that there's an incredible amount of API churn on a lot of this stuff, because we're just 2 guys, and one of our other friends also helps us. But it's pretty much a 2-man team, covering a dependency like an actual package manager, a bundling system, an IDE. There's we're constant, and on top of that, making it all work in a browser fast. A lot of the APIs haven't been fully hammered out, standardized. We have a lot of refactoring, a lot of iterations to do, but we're planning on getting like all this core tech open sourced, ideally in Q1 of 2018. And I think we're going to start open sourcing some of this stuff at least even sooner than that, I think. But yeah,
there were 2 that you created. There's like Hyperboot and one other thing.
Yep. Yeah, Turbo, which is the npm client. So what you're seeing here is like, so I'll go ahead and delete Moment again, right? And now as I type in Moment, when I hit enter, what's going to happen is you'll see this blue bar come across the top. It says installing dependencies. When that finishes, that's when Hyperboot kicks in to rebundle your application. So you can think about like when you install a package locally, it's usually npm goes like, installing a package, and then it finishes. And then you have to be like, okay, cool. Now I have to like run Webpack, and then Webpack's like, compiling, and then finally like it's like, okay, this thing's available on port 4200, whatever. And then you go to it, and then it's like actually loading the stuff in the browser, and then it's done, right? So with this, again, like if I hit enter over here, install happens, reload like that. So that's you can kind of separate the concerns here with this. That blue bar here is the turbo, and then that refresh over here was hyperboot.
Okay, let's pause for a second here because this is so badass, right? We're not talking about just this new type of editor here for us to share code and quickly prototype and work on code right in the browser, kind of like these other things, right? I mean, we are very close here to full-blown editor IDE experience within the browser as your working application that you do day to day, right? I mean, I feel like once we get that GitHub integration with our own repos and the code coming from there, like we can live on Chromebooks and iPads and do our development, right? Using
no doubt.
this editor.
Oh yeah, no doubt. On Wednesday at Angular's meetup, we actually had this just potato of a Chromebook to demo on. Like we intentionally brought a potato Chromebook. And when I say potato, I mean this thing was like the cheapest of the cheap and the slowest of the slow. This thing, the total amount was like $165 for this thing, and that included shipping. Okay, so like this is the sort of stuff they're selling into K-12, into hordes, and in the masses, right? So super slow, and we pulled up StackBlitz on it, right? And with Chrome OS, you can even fathom of doing development before, even on the higher end ones, because there's no command line, there's no file system, there's none of the stuff that you would need. And you pulled it up and installed Moment there. Did the same exact demo, and it was faster than your local dev environment on like a MacBook would have been, right? So it's definitely with a couple of more features in this, we think that it could be the most ideal place to be writing front end software for sure.
And look, we're not talking just about the excitement of us as devs and people that we're in this industry and always living in here, right? I mean, but you mentioned it right there with the K-12, and we're talking about anybody at any level being able to access and write code and work on this stuff and accessibility to getting into this career and experiencing this stuff for a low budget because this sort of thing is provided, right? I mean, the impact that this could have for that is pretty amazing. I mean, I'm sure you two have probably thought about that, but this is something pretty big.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we mentioned too on Wednesday was, he and Albert and I we grew up, writing software, specifically web software, and we couldn't afford to have blazing high-end machines, so it was really important for us that we want to make sure that the schools that are adopting Chromebooks, because they're cheap, they're affordable, which is usually the key thing in education is price point. We want to make sure that we created something that was blazing fast so that we could get modern web development into the hands of kids, of children, because that's where you start. That's the best time to start learning about this stuff, and usually that's when you're the most intrinsically motivated to start learning about this stuff.
So I'm wondering, and I don't know, I think you brushed on it a little bit, but what is this built with? Like, what are all the codes?
Honestly, most of it is custom. It's just vanilla JavaScript. And the name of the game is pulling the relevant pieces out from the various projects that are out there. For example, like VS Code, the core editor engine, we're using Monaco. But the problem with VS Code is that, yeah, it's an Electron app. It's written mostly in TypeScript, JavaScript, whatever. But it relies on access to a local machine, like heavily. Like, for example, the syntax highlighting. The rich syntax highlighting is run through TextMate grammars, which requires a C library to be present, to be able to run a C library. You can't do that in a browser. And so we had to roll our own system for doing all of the syntax highlighting.
Like in vanilla JavaScript, all of it?
Yeah. This is we're able to see how folks are doing it and other things.
Gods.
I know, right? We're sitting there like, oh yeah, we just wrote that,
No, we're just suckers for a challenge, right? Like, a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to do half. I wouldn't have known how to do half this stuff. We just banged our head against the wall the first 6 months were just brutal because that it was, when you're kind of going up against the question of like, is this possible? It's you're looking into the void. But once we're able to at least get it online, that was nice. And then the question was, can we make this thing 5 times faster, which is also a bit of a void. But like it's if you put your mind to something, it's more about just sheer force of will, I feel like. Then
So you said it was really hard the first 6 months. How long would you say the project as a whole took?
We started about a year ago, and I mean, boy, right, especially at the tail end, we were working some tough hours. I mean, I remember for about a month I was working 16 hours a day on this thing. It was brutal. Like, yeah, it was tough. It was some tough times, but yeah, but it was cool though,
So, Eric, what was the moment when everything like was worth it? Has there been a moment yet? Did you get to like go to your families and be like, do you know how cool we are? We'll tell them. Give us their numbers. We'll let them know.
Yeah, I think, what would you say? I feel like I can think of a couple things, but I'm curious what
definitely launching it and getting just validation after like 6 months of
we're not crazy.
Shooting in the dark.
We're not crazy.
They like us.
We're not out of our minds. Yeah, no, that was definitely, I definitely agree on that. I think the other one too was having like the Angular team want to use this for powering all of the live examples. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be able to have the world's largest web software company using your web software, and on a part of what they're doing.
When you started building it, did you know they'd want to or no?
We hope they would. Like we hope someone would want to use this thing. But yeah, I mean, what was crazy was like the day we launched, Rob from the Angular team messaged me on Twitter. He's like, "Can I get your email?" And I was like, "I mean, sure." And so he sent me an email immediately after, and he was like, can you chat on Google Hangouts in like an hour? And I was like, yeah. Yeah, like, what's going on? So we ended up talking with them, and they were stoked about it. They loved it. And so then we kept talking with them, and eventually they decided to switch over, especially because we've been adding a lot of really cool stuff for Angular. And actually, instead of just talking about it, I'll switch back to my demo here.
You should show them the Angular site, how you can just launch an example straight from it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've rolled it out on the live one yet, have they?
Go to Material.
Yeah, Material will do it. So actually, real quick, I'll Material, yep, angular.io. And did you guys end up dropping the Sass thing out of it by chance?
I didn't, not yet.
Okay, so this is a little slower because it's actually doing a compilation of Sass. So here's like an input field. Actually, I like the button ones more. Where's the buttons? I like those buttons. So example. So yeah, this is pretty, right? So let's go ahead and open this up in StackBlitz.
That's cool.
And so what you're seeing here is that this is installing the dependencies required on demand and doing all the compilation. Again, it's a little slower just because we're doing some like this Sass file here is actually getting compiled, so we have to kick up the Sass compiler, which takes a little bit. But boots up, and you can see these directly on StackBlitz. And let's see, actually, since we do have Sass, I can't remember. You can do custom styling. Is actually pretty cool.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so actually, I'll pull up because I know I have an Angular material project. Look at that. So this is running a little older version. I got to bump the dependencies on this guy. But so this thing's going to boot up. And I'll go in here. Wait for this thing to boot. Come on. Oh, and this is taking longer because it's actually, so you'll see that it's importing directly from Angular Material Theming, which is a Sass file. And then we're actually setting the Sass variables and then calling the function for actually theming it. So if I go ahead and change this, so this is like blue is our primary right now. Let's say I want to change it to like green. I just type green and it should update. Boom. So now it's green. So again, this is like, it is changing the Sass theme like on demand with hot reloading.
This is huge. I mean, like for learning, this is huge to go from like an example that you're just looking at a static example in a doc to be able to like play with the code like in an environment. This is amazing.
Yeah, and what's cool, right, is you can just hit export and this will download and you can use it on your local machine, right?
I love it.
So it's you can play around in here, hit export, this thing will work just great locally. But yeah, because of Hyperboot and Turbo, which essentially allows us to do basically on-demand package installations and rebundling super fast, we were actually able to roll out a really cool feature. So this is our Thinksters Real World project, which is essentially like, it's the mother of all demo apps. It's basically like 2.2 MVC, but full stack. So you can mix and match any front end and back end, and it'll create a real world application called Conduit, which is essentially like it's medium.com. And so you can see people are like hitting our API, which is open for everyone to use. But so yeah, any front end, any back end, and we have this Angular version of it. And if I want to run this on StackBlitz, any Angular CLI project on GitHub, all you have to do is just change out the URL there to stackblitz.com/GitHub, and then the username and repo name, and then just hit enter. And you'll see now this immediately imported that GitHub project. It's doing the installing the dependencies.
Wait. That's a thing.
What?
That's a thing.
This is the thing. This is the thing.
He just does it like it's no big deal. Like, oh yeah,
right? Like,
I
oh
did
yeah.
not
By the way,
know that.
And keep in mind, this is a big project, right? So we're talking, Real World is the mother of all demo apps. It's meant to be, a fully fledged application. This has like authentication. This has multiple routes. It's got a lot of stuff going on in it, right? And so now it's like immediately available and open over here. I can go ahead. We can, let's see, I've kind of forgot where that actually is, but let's go. I think it's in shared. If we want to change the name that's showing up there, we go into like layout and then go into the header. And yeah, so it says Conduit, and we'll say AngularAir. And
I feel like you're so nonchalant about this, Eric. Like, I don't know if you know how cool this is. The rest of us know.
You guys got a mic over there? Because you might as well just drop it right now.
Here, sound effect.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's pretty neat, right? Like, it's pretty cool. So yeah, so I hot reload this thing live. And one thing that's pretty cool is you can actually open this in a new window. Like this URL, I can open up. Actually, let me go ahead and I'll just cast my entire screen instead of just this. Let me pop back over here, and yeah, let's do the entire screen. So we'll go share. And all right, so you'll see over here, this is our Hangout on air. I'm going to go ahead and take this URL. I'm just going to go ahead and paste it over here. And this is actually loading directly from this editor tab over here, right? We have a real dev server running in browser using Progressive Web App API, specifically Service Worker. And so whenever I do any hot reloading, so again, watch this header title thing over here. If I change this to like Brad Green, this is his own personal blog now. You'll see it hot reloads all over here as well, right?
So that's using tab-to-tab communication. It's not like a WebSocket.
No, this is using tab-to-tab communications, and if I go offline, this will still work, right? Like this is all working directly within your browser. So this also is awesome for debugging because, so for example, let's go ahead and just like do a console.log of hello, something that we do all the time, right? Like using console.log, and so you'll see hello pops up in here, right? I think right now I've got. Normally it actually clears out your console.log, but so I'll do that again. You'll see, so my hot reload says hello. So the same exact debugging experience locally, if I want to see, okay, what's this variable up here, right? Let me grab that guy. And then I'll do, let's swap that out and do that. You can see it loads right there, right? Just like your local environment.
So that reminded me, I wanted to ask earlier, how does the autocomplete work that you have going on
for IntelliSense?
Yeah.
Well, we're using Microsoft's, the same one from VS Code, the same core editing engine. Okay. I would love to take credit for all of the really hard work they did, but that seems like a poor thing to do. What we really did is we automatically pull from your dependencies all the type definitions. We search through them, and then we add it. We pull it into their core editing engine, which automatically takes care of the various autocomplete things. So like to demo that real quick, if I want to say like platform, browser dynamic, and then it gives me the other methods available there, so I can do all this stuff, right? So it's really cool because the same exact tooling that you use locally, you can use on StackBlitz, right? So I'm going to switch back to the single screen because I'll show you one of the cool things that we have for like Angular specifically. which is what I originally wanted to show y'all. So let me go back to the home page. I'll create a new project.
Speaking of the Angular specific pieces, the routes in there, if you define routes, is that actually resolving lazy routes as well?
This resolves lazy routes as well. Like this is the real deal. Does everything.
Nice.
Yeah. So and it also does like dynamic imports if folks use that sort of stuff too. Yeah, one of the cool things and one of the most commonly used features of Angular or of the Angular CLI, which I'm sure you're familiar with, folks who work in the CLI in here, is the generators. And this is one of the top requests we got after we launched. And normally you have to go into the right folder and type ng generate component and then the name of it or something like that. With StackBlitz, it's actually really simple. You just right click on any folder. And you see here, we get a list of all the things that we can generate, right? And just one click, if I want a new component here, I can type like home component, enter, boom. That just generated a folder with our component, the HTML file, and the CSS file associated with it. And it also added it into our app module, so it's immediately available. So if I go ahead and go over into this app component here, and I type in, I believe the selector should be like app home or something like that, you'll see that homeworks shows up down here, which is the template of that component, right? So being able to just scaffold, if I want to create, let's say I want to create a shared module, something that's part of most applications, I want to scaffold out I'm going to need a user service. I'm going to need an API service,
You guys need a support link. Like, get on that.
Right?
This is amazing.
Like, show for auth, for only show for auth users or something like that, right? Scaffold all this stuff out. All of that has already been added into the shared module. Again, just like it works locally. So just blazing fast now to scaffold applications because you can just, whatever you want, whatever folder you want something in, you just right click and boom. You can just scaffold it right there. Super cool.
We're gonna need to chat after the show so we can figure out how to get multiple app support in there, like CLI, because that's what we do with NX, and we have NX, and it supports Angular CLI project, but with multiple apps.
So yeah, like in the CLI JSON you're talking.
Yeah. So like, how could you set it up so that StackBlitz will support, telling which app to run, right, and then also which app to target with the generator and stuff.
Yeah, that's you're the first person I've ran into that said they do multiple app support, because this is something that Albert and I were talking about, and we're like, well, we haven't really seen anyone that's used the multiple app config in there. So yeah, I'd love to chat with you about how you're doing that, because we actually already support a lot of the stuff in the Angular CLI JSON. So this is right now specifying a style sheet that we should be using, right? That's what you'd be putting in here. So if I say like body and make the background of it red, that should hot reload, right? If I get rid of that in the CLI JSON, just make this an empty array, that should go away now. So we support all that stuff with hot reloading, which is pretty cool. Yeah, we'd love to chat about doing multiple app support as well.
Yeah, so definitely, because I just took that feature that you said and pointed at a GitHub repo that we already have, pulled this thing in, and I'm like blown away by that. That is so awesome that I can take my existing repo and get that into StackBlitz pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then once I brought that in and it has the multiple apps, it's like, okay, we got to get that figured out. But man, it's sick. It's so awesome.
So what's the front end actually written in?
We actually use a handful of things. Again, most of the stuff is vanilla, because the problem, and I'm going to go and switch back to our video here. Let's see. All right. So we most of the stuff is vanilla, and the large reason is that we're creating a tool, like we're creating a web app that lets you create web apps, and it has to. And again, the goal was not just to like allow you to do that, not just allow you to create a web app, but it had to be like faster than your local environment. So we have to pretty much know where every millisecond of performance goes. So a lot of the stuff is actually just done with vanilla. We use like Preact in a couple of places. But yeah, like most of the stuff we're actually doing by hand, because like the UI is actually not the hard part of this at all. It's everything else that's getting glued in together here.
So what's you talked about some roadmap items. What else is on the roadmap?
Well, can y'all keep a secret?
Oh yeah, we won't tell anyone.
We won't tell anyone.
Yeah, sure.
Don't go looking for this on YouTube.
All right, we trust
Okay,
everyone
hold on,
watching.
hold on. Let's make sure nobody's watching. Okay, stop watching.
Everybody
Okay, go ahead.
cover your ears.
Okay, are you ready? Okay, here we're going to tell you exactly what we're doing in 3, 2, 1.
Nice.
I'm just joking. Yeah, I think in 2018, I think we're going to be able to, like, a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. We've already mentioned most of it actually, which is, bringing a lot of the stuff that's missing in StackBlitz right now that your local dev environment has. Access to GitHub. I guess real-time editing is something that's kind of new coming to VS Code and Atom, but we want to do that as well. We think that's actually probably better suited for something like StackBlitz because it's sort of Google Doc style where you can just send someone a URL and that sort of thing. There's a couple other cool things too, actually. We are going to roll out OTA hot reloading really soon. So basically you can pull out your mobile phone, go to the URL. And normally you can do that. You can just go there and you can view your application. But if you make changes on your computer, it doesn't get synced in real time right now. So we're going to actually allow you to hot reload your code across all devices connected to that URL. So if you have like a client on the other side of the world and they want to choose this material button versus this one, you can just make those changes and it'll automatically be synced to them in real time. Just shoot them a URL, right? So super nice for teams of folks that need to show changes in real time to each other. I don't know, what else are we working on?
Firebase.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that was just cool. Yeah, we're talking with the folks on the Firebase and Google Cloud teams, and you're going to be able to deploy your applications in one click to Firebase and Google Cloud next year, which would be pretty cool.
That would be my next question. If you're looking to go full-blown IDE, full-blown development, that you don't want to run live servers or live applications that way, to get to a deployment stage.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we want to, our goal by the end of 2018 is we want you to be able to come to StackBlitz and go from, I would say git init, but like go from click for a new project to deploy to production, right? And everything in between. And it's, all the really hard technical problems at this point have been solved, specifically around like the access to NPM, the bundling speeds. You can throw gigantic applications at this thing, as you saw with Real World, right? Like that's a very, very large application. You can throw real world applications at StackBlitz and it edits them as smooth as butter. So it's just a matter of connecting up the pipes into all the other outlets out there with Firebase, Google, and GitHub and whatever have you. So
I feel kind of bad because I'm fitting to break up with WebStorm and VS Code in 2018. So this is going to be my new editor here coming in here. All this stuff lights up. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I've built a whole component for material inside StackBlitz.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Can I get a quote from you on that? Can I get like your face on our homepage? Just like I built this component in the material.
Yeah.
We'll give you lots of quotes, Eric. I don't know if we post them, but we've got lots of quotes for you.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to be revamping our homepage with quotes. So I'm not joking.
Nice.
Tools like this are exactly why the CLI is moving from extracting a lot of the logic out of the CLI into the dev kit to allow other clients to be able to tap into the powers of what's in the CLI already.
I feel like a lot of people I don't know if complain is the right word, but people are very vocal about the state of front-end development, like Webpack and all these tools and things like that. And this thing really just, you don't even have to think about it. This is, I feel like, the next step. Things like this are the next step in that evolution to get rid of all those concerns.
Yeah, we really appreciate hearing that, because when we launched Turbo a couple of days ago, there's a handful of people that we're mostly overwhelmingly supportive, but for the first time we kind of got the blunt end of the stick of innovation, which is people the naysayers, and they're like, can Turbo, is this replacing NPM and Yarn? I'm like, well, not today, but it's an NPM client that's faster than these. And if it doesn't work locally, then it's not real. And the primary reason it doesn't work locally is because the FS logic that Unix and all these other things are based on are archaic, and it would be really tough to do lazy loading on local machines. And so their perspective is, if you can't make it work on the archaic stuff, this isn't real. And our perspective is, I think we should deprecate that archaic stuff because this is a much better experience. We think so too. I mean, we think a lot of the development experience is a lot better, when you're not waiting on kind of this unnecessary time for installing or bundling or whatever have you, or setting that stuff up in the first place. We hope that the stuff that we're going to be open sourcing helps alleviate that problem, not just, in StackBlitz, but also like across the board. And again, the NPM folks apparently are working on something similar to this, and they're looking at Turbo and trying to figure out how they can take some of the stuff that we've proven out with that and apply it to a local solution. We couldn't agree more.
Very awesome. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour, so better wrap it up, call it a show. It's been pretty killer to hear about all this stuff and check it out. Really quick question. Got any stickers in the pipeline? Are those ready to go? Are you doing stickers yet, or what? What's going on with the sticker game?
Yeah, we're bootstrapped. We're bootstrapped. So you know what? I think we might start taking donations. All the money y'all send to us, we'll put that right back into stickers for all of y'all.
Perfect. Yep, totally. All right. Well, let's get to our picks and then call it a day. All right, Alyssa, you got any picks?
Yes, I do. I have one from a friend who actually told me about this article in, I think it's Time, called "The Silence Breakers," and it was a really touching article about men and women speaking out about like sexual harassment, and I think it's really good stuff. So check it out if you have not heard of it, and the link is in the show notes. But yeah, it's called "Silence Breakers."
Cool.
And that's all I got. Yeah.
Awesome. Austin?
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to Todd Motto. He released NGRX, like a 7-hour training on NGRX and NGRX effects for free. Really good material. I suggest everyone take a look at it.
Yeah, I started on that this week, and it was pretty amazing, and I can't believe he released it for free.
Cool. Bonnie?
Yeah, so I'm going to, and every once in a while, I have a person as a pick, which I wasn't sure if I was allowed to do, but I was, so I am. So I met this really cool person named James Henry in London, and I had never heard of him before, but he was amazing, and he was really a delightful person, and Narwhal just hired him, and it's this uncanny thing, right? So I think it's really cool. You guys should check out James Henry and see who he is, because he's an amazing person. And I like him a lot. So James Henry is my pick. And James Henry, if you see this, don't let it go to your head.
You can always pick whatever you want to pick. People, whatever. That's
yeah.
Good. All right, Mike, what do you got?
It's release week. So I have 3 picks that are all releases. So Angular 5.1, Angular Material is now stable, and the Angular CLI version 1.6 have all been released this week. So make sure you update your app.
Okay, wait, so say that again. Material stable. The official release of Angular Material is out now?
Yep, I believe it's 5.0.0 for consistency with the version numbers.
Yeah, it'll be synchronized.
RC.
Yeah, and it'll be synchronized with Angular releases as well. So when you see Angular 6.0, Material will be right there.
And then I have a question, and this is going back to StackBlitz. So the idea of stickers always makes me think of conferences. Are there any conferences coming up that you may be attending or what have you, where people can come and chat with you and hand you a donation?
Yeah, we want to go to ngConf. I want to see if I think that the application for speaking or whatever is still open, right?
December 10th, 2 days.
Oh shoot! All right, well, glad I asked this. Okay, yeah, we'd ideally like to be able to go and show this, because ideally a lot of the stuff we talked about today should be available by then. So we'd love to go and show that off for the first time at ngConf.
I know for a fact that was actually the friend that gave me the pick, that one of the creators is watching this show. So Just
Oh,
let
really?
you know. Oh yeah. Of NG
All right, so we'd love to be able to show this stuff off, all the cool stuff. We have some cool aces up our sleeve. So, we'd love to do that. I mean, we're based in SF, so the Bay Area. So anyone you're more than welcome to come by our office. Love to have you. We'll try and get some stickers. I think next year we'll probably start going to a good number more conferences. We spend too much time in this office coding, so we gotta go out and breathe the fresh air of an auditorium conference session.
so Frosty just shouted out on the YouTube chats that you need to submit now with a bunch of hands. So they want you to submit.
Yes.
You
Right when we get off the call.
Right when we get off call, right?
Yeah, right when we get off the call. That's no joke. That's the first thing I'll do.
Oh my gosh! You know what you should do? You should like link in this episode as your resource, like one of your abstracts. Right?
Man, that's savage. That's savage. But I'm gonna do it. That's awesome.
Yeah, you guys have to go to ngConf. You'll love it. And bring your squirrel outfit. I feel bad because I keep saying that, and Eric, I don't know if you. I feel like you have a really good sense of humor, but I really want you to like tweet out a picture of that because they don't know what I'm talking about.
Here, I'll show it on air.
There you go.
I have no shame. I
love it.
I wore my panda hat at ngConf last year. You can wear the squirrel hat.
I don't know. This is kind of a different class of weird. You know what I mean? Like,
no, we embrace that. Just tell Frosty we said it was okay.
Here we go. All right.
He'll love it.
This is the squirrel hat that Albert got me for my birthday.
Albert, you're so thoughtful.
He loves squirrels, so I had to.
That's true. I love squirrels, just not human-sized ones. You know.
You guys are awesome.
Thanks, you all too. This has been fun chatting with y'all. I'm glad y'all like StackBlitz.
We love it.
Warming our hearts.
All right. Let me get my pick, and then I got to give you two to get your pick, and then we'll wrap it up because Mike derailed us. Thanks, Mike. But good stuff. It was good stuff, right? All right. So my pick, I picked Coco, the Coco movie. I freaking love that movie. I thought it was amazing. So check that out. I also want to pick Brad Frost's front end guideline questionnaire. He's got it up on github.com/Brad Frost, and it's like front end guidelines questionnaire. Kind of goes through helping you plan out what you want to do for your teams and stuff, questions you want to ask to answer to get a plan for how you're going to tackle doing front end development with your teams. I thought that was pretty cool. And then I'm going to throw Frosty's pick, Aaron Frost's pick for Avengers Infinity Wars trailer that's out there now. So that was his pick. And I think he also wants to pick the new Jurassic Park trailer. He didn't say anything about that, but I'm going to throw that in there for that too. So those are my picks and Frosty's picks. So Eric and Albert, what do you got?
Okay, well, I've got one that I think we can both agree on. This is going to be a little bit of a shameless plug. It's an open source project we're working on, and I'm going to switch over. I'm going to show you why we need everyone's help. Okay, and so we really would love to see this number over here hit 10,000 by the end of the year. So it's a cool project. It's called Real World. It's the thing we were talking about earlier. It's super close to passing the 10,000 mark, which would be super awesome. But jokes aside, it's actually really useful if you're trying to pick up a new front end or a back end. And we're also adding like mobile and full stack, and we're even going to be doing deployment for it as well. So if you're trying to find like a really good frame of reference for how a fully fledged application works and want to like copy and paste little bits out of it, this thing is like totally perfect for that. I'm going to switch back to our video.
You should refresh. You just got a couple of stars, man.
Yeah, I just did
it. Yay! We got 3
one
stars.
for each panelist.
Cool. Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, and then we'd love to see folks come over to Thinkster.io, and we're revamping our content catalog there. Taking a pro subscription. We have a lot of stuff that's free, but for folks that want to support us and or get some awesome content, that is totally an option. You have anything?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think I covered it for both of us. We have our priorities are aligned. Like we're both in the same basket here for what we work on.
Very cool. Very cool. We really appreciate you coming up. Well, first of all, we really appreciate all this stuff that you made with StackBlitz and the time that you put into it and the fact that you're sharing it with the community, and it's super killer. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for taking the time to come on our show and share the content. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us. It was a blast.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right, that's a wrap. We'll be back on Tuesday, so just around the corner. We're going to be talking NX with Victor Savkin. So join us and take care and peace. Later.